Today, we're going to do a camera comparison between the Pixel 10 Pro versus the iPhone 16 Pro. So looking at these photos, they are pretty consistent in their own signature look. On the Pixel, they lean towards the neutral colors, so if you're looking at something that's white, it should look white, and if you're looking at the streets, then it should probably show more gray than the other phone. On the iPhone, I feel like it's a bit closer to the eye because of the warmth that you see from the sun or even like tungsten lights during nighttime. But there are some times where I feel like it's a little bit too much, but at the end of the day, it depends on the person since we all like different colors and looks. Now for the telephoto lens, the iPhone max zoom is at 25x, whereas on the Pixel, you can go all the way out to 100x. And they have this feature called ProRes Zoom where it uses generative AI to clean things up, and sometimes it can look a little bit too fake, but when you're at that point, it's not about taking a good photo, it's just something like reference or just a quick memory that you're there. For the most part, you will be using from 0.5 to 5x, and when you're running around in the city or just snapping pictures mindlessly, or even when you're taking pictures of your food, this zoom range is more than enough. During the daytime, all these photos look good, so it really depends on which color do you like and which camera UI you like using better. Personally, on a Pixel, it did take me some time to get used to switching from photo mode to video mode, but after that, I did find the shutter button placement on a Pixel to be more comfortable. Now, when you start to move indoors where it's a little bit darker, this is where you start to see the difference at 5x. And of course, you see the biggest difference at 25x. Now, for pictures of food, in my opinion, I do lean towards the iPhone just because I find the warmer tones to make the food pop a little bit more and it just look more delicious. Now, when you move outdoors during nighttime, I do find that the ultra wide on the Pixel to be more consistently brighter overall. So in my opinion, low light photos on the ultra wide goes to the Pixel 10 Pro. Now for the wide, I feel like the Pixel is also more exposed than the iPhone, so it does have that HDR look if you're into that. And even though the iPhone is a little bit darker in the shadows, it does look more natural. And I feel like when you're going back to these photos and showing your friends, and I feel like you're going to be showing the ones from the Pixel 10 Pro just because things are more exposed and it's easier to look at. And of course, when you start to zoom in during nighttime, especially at max zoom, it does fall apart on the iPhone, but on a Pixel, it's still pretty decent on 25x, and since you're in a concert-like environment, going beyond 25x is something really valuable. Now, it's not always really consistent. I feel like when you start to shoot something really dark, you're going to see a lot of noise regardless which phone you're going to use. But once you're at 30x on a Pixel, the ProRes Zoom feature does kick in, so that does clean up the image a lot. Now, when you're taking selfies, this is where I gotta hand it off to Pixel. The HDR is really consistent and I'm always exposed, and also the skin tone looks really good. On top of that, it is wider, so you'll see more of the environment and you can easily squeeze in another person. Now for portrait mode, it's so nice on the Pixel that 1x is no longer cropped in, and you get 2x and 3x, which is a really good range for the everyday scenario. On the iPhone, you do get 5x, so that's nice to be able to take advantage of the telephoto, but for the most part, you do need a lot of space to be able to use this focal length. Moving on to video for the ultra wide and low light, for some reason, it does look a little bit too choppy on the iPhone, and it does seem like there's a bit more micro jitters as well. Then I moved it to outdoors, and it does seem like it's still a bit choppy, and the colors on the iPhone is more warm, which is a bit more realistic since these lights on the merry-go-round are tungsten. Then moving on to the wide lens, again the colors are more warm on iPhone just because there's a huge sign with lights on the left. When I was panning around, I realized that once I start to point at something really dark on the Pixel, it did start to get choppy. Then it got pretty smooth again once I start to see a lot more lights. Now for 5x, the Pixel does look more clear, but it is darker. And when you start to pan around, the Pixel does get a little bit choppy. Now moving on to daytime, the quality is not a big issue, but if you look at the color of the tints, they are exactly white as what you would expect, whereas on iPhone it's slightly yellow, which I'm assuming is just being influenced from the sun. Now with the main wide camera, I feel like the Pixel is just slightly more exposed in the shadows, so everything is pretty much evenly exposed, whereas on iPhone it is just a bit darker, and then ending it panning with the 5x. So after shooting with these two phones, I feel like the Pixel is just very easy to use and stress-free, so I feel like this is a very easy choice for a lot of casual consumers out there. The pictures on a Pixel are really consistent, so they're not going to see a lot of bad photos. So that is the comparison. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.